everybody. Today I'm coming on because I want to make sure that we haven't gotten too distracted about all the liver stuff and forgotten about the colon, which is actually, you know, the first thing we need to pay attention to in terms of the order of operations of the drainage system, of the detox and drainage pathway of the body, how waste gets out of the body, basically, how toxicity gets out of the body, and how just basic metabolic waste get out of the body. It may seem obvious, that the colon is a big part of that because of, the large waste removal aspects of it, but we might overlook that in terms of the detoxification organs, that actually everything is sifting through the body and coming out. And if the bowels are in any way blocked, not working, congested in their own way, or sluggish, which is extremely common. And sometimes you might not even know that there's a ton of congestion. Sometimes people have diarrhea, but it's actually like shooting through like a little bit of space, and the rest of it is like caked up and congested and stuck. So that's something also to be aware of. So, um, yeah, so tune in with me for this short amount of time. We're going to just go over some of the colon cleansing basics and also why it's so important to have in conjunction with the liver, and especially when we're looking at doing a liver flush or something like that. And just as a heads up, I am offering a Enema Essentials online course. Not all of the material is appropriate for just putting up on YouTube, and I decided to make a really low cost course that super over delivers on its value and material, because it's just so important that we make sure we get into a rhythm and routine of taking care of our colons and keeping that drainage system totally open. So if you're interested in that, you can comment below that you want the course. So just as a reminder, I'm Sienna Songbird, 15 years self-studied detox expert, and I'm really passionate right now about getting effective at-home tools for detox accessible to people who need them. So I'm trying to break it down and give it to you in step-by-step and sort of simple language and make it possible for you to integrate well into your life. So let's get into it. So as we mentioned, the drainage pathway, so I make this shape like a triangle because there's the base of the triangle. This is like how well is your body eliminating waste and toxins. So at the very base of this triangle, or sometimes you might even see it reversed. So the triangle is like this, where there's like, it's funneling down and it has to make it through. Everything has to make it through the bottom, right? It's all sort of being gathered from the whole body. Up here, we have like the skin and the lungs and the lymph system, all these little bits pulling down, have to pass through the kidneys. And then the liver and the bile ducts is a crucial part of this triangle. And then at the very bottom of the funnel is the colon. So everything that gets siphoned off from up here has to be able to exit through the colon. So this is just a crucial place for us to keep in mind. And you might wonder, like, why isn't Sienna talking about the colon all the time? Well, part of the reason is that a lot of times we can't totally fix colon issues, especially sluggish issues, constipation, things like that, until we get enough movement in the liver that there's a sufficient quantity of bile, because that is what sort of keeps the whole digestive tract and whole system on track. And so we can try to adjust some things. We can try to improve the situation. For example, probiotic foods can be helpful. We try to reset and reestablish the correct ecosystem. But the thing is that without that wash of alkaline bile, the terrain just isn't quite right. And so we're just gonna continue to lose ground, kind of. So that's why I like to look at these in tandem, where you're making progress with the liver, that's sort of in your mind and in your sights, that's a really important aspect. But at the same time, we might want to just sort of triage the colon situation. And this is absolutely crucial around the liver flush. You may have heard that you need to clear the bowels before you actually do the flush, and this is to ensure that there's room for the liver to dump all this stuff out, and then it doesn't get stuck for a long time in the colon. And then there's a really strong, important recommendation that I'm, also push really hard for to get people to understand, which is the colon cleansing after the liver flush on the back end, because all of this stuff that's been stored in the liver is all of a sudden out in the body, and it is transiting through the digestive tract, and we want to get it all out. And sometimes if you have sticky stuff in there, or it's like tight corners, or there's pockets, diverticuli that are sort of popped out and have different shapes. You might even get stones or sludge that gets stuck along the way. And we want to get all that out because, wow, you feel so much better when it's actually out. And so that colon cleansing on the back end is also like absolutely essential. And so in my liver flushing program, I do cover colon cleansing and the enema tutorials, but I decided to make it its own program as well in case people just want to get more familiar with taking care of the colon and the enemas, because it really is good to be somewhat familiar with these processes. In my liver flushing program, I do encourage or basically require that people practice at least doing an enema before the flush when they actually must do it. So 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 just because, so around the liver flush, it's crucial to be taking care, and those things you can kind of intervene with these strong sort of direct interventions of the enemas or colonics. And of course, the liver flushing procedure actually involves taking really high doses of magnesium to make the transit happen faster. And those levels of magnesium, especially in that form, you can't necessarily keep, you can't necessarily take that on the daily, but since the colon may not be like totally rehabilitated until the liver is also rehabilitated and that bile flow is reestablished, we can talk about a few methods to get things moving and possibly address some of this stagnant and congested colon issue. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just a few things off the top of my mind. So also, if you want to add any, you can add them below in the comments to help people out with some of your ideas. But one really simple, basic one is drink more water, and especially drinking more electrolytes rich water. So I don't like recommending drinking plain water, really. I like to generally have living water in some way. So, um, and the adrenal cocktail components or any kind of electrolytes, even as simple as adding lemon juice to your water, makes a world of difference. Adding sea salt to your water, like a good high quality sea salt, makes a world of difference. It makes it like something way more nourishing for the body and not stripping. And so we want to focus on hydration in the form of fresh living waters in fruits and vegetables, and as well as, sort of spicing up the water that we do have. Filtered water, of course, first, and then adding back in some of these life-giving nutrients and electrolytes. So a lot of times people are dehydrated, and this obviously slows down transit time in the colon, because the colon and near the bottom of it is actually a place where we reabsorb fluid, water, and electrolytes, basically to be hydrated. So if the body is less hydrated, then it's going to squeeze out as much as it can. And you imagine it gets harder and harder and drier, which is not a fun kind of poop to be trying to get out. So that's one of the basic ones. And then you can also do saltwater flushes. It's kind of an Ayurvedic practice. Maybe not always the most pleasant thing, but that's drinking like warm water with significant salt in it first thing in the morning, trying to get the digestive tract flushing. Sometimes even just people, something about that warm water too, because even warm water with lemon juice in it, a lot of times people get, say that their bowels move, or, lemon water followed by the celery juice, really can get the bowels moving. And obviously, I know some people use coffee to get the bowels moving in the morning, but unfortunately that really kind of backfires in the long run because it's such a dehydrating and falsely stimulating substance that you're going to almost induce less movement in the body on its own and also dehydrate you, which is going to worsen the overall situation. So, something else you can do is supplementing with kinds of supplements that move the bowels at higher doses and sort of experimenting with, it's called bowel tolerance when you get to like a dose that makes your bowels move loosely. So, a lot of people know this about magnesium and vitamin C. And so, what you can do is kind of, nobody can exactly tell you your dose for these. So you kind of keep raising the dose until you reach that place of bowel tolerance where you're having looser stools. And then you can back down from that a little bit so that you are just having regular bowel movements each day if you can get to that point. And different magnesium forms are going to work for this better than others. Some, like magnesium glycinate, probably won't work at all. So if you need more information about that, let me know. Otherwise, you know, there are a variety of forms of magnesium that can work for this. Then the most, the best sort of fastest intervention for colon cleansing would be enemas and colonics. Colonics are a paid for service. Usually you go to a place and they run gallons and gallons of distilled water through your bowels. And this is a very effective way to cleanse the bowels. And if anyone has access to that kind of service, or feels like they need to get a jump start on cleaning up something in the bowels, then I highly recommend colonics. They can be pretty spiritual, magical experiences for people in terms of how good you can feel just getting that much of a cleanse. Now, enemas, there's a wide variety of types of enemas, that I recommend. And in my program, I walk you through all different kinds of them. But just on a most basic level, you're getting water in there and you're sweeping stuff out. And people have incredible results, including myself, of feeling immediate benefits, immediately better, relief, good feelings, magic, coming back to life, with just implementing really simple enemas. And then you can go all the way to like enemas that are helping to break up the dry, sticky mucus in the colon and help get that out. So there's just such a wide variety, and they really are a super easy and reliable intervention for clearing out this space and making sure that things are continuing to move. Another option for keeping things moving and sort of starting to work on the sticky built up matter in the colon are fiber and enzymatic colon cleanses. So some of these are like do it yourself, mixing psyllium with clay or charcoal and sort of making this concoction. I've been working off of a recipe called plasma pudding, which I learned and is included in my binders book that I really like. Um, you have to be careful with this kind of thing because a lot of the binders and fiber products are, they absorb so much water. So it's actually easy to bind yourself up with them too. And I wanted to mention too, just binders in general, you want to be careful with because a lot of them are dehydrating and a lot of them are powders, right, that are dehydrated. So some of the ways you can, use binders and not get backed up is pre-hydrating the binders. So for example, clay, we soak it overnight or for a full 24 hours before consuming. And then sometimes it's just you gotta up your liquids, you gotta up your water intake quite a bit. Um, so fiber is one direction of getting things to move, but then fat, higher amounts of fat can also get things to move, but sometimes you can run into trouble with these things. And also constipation, you also really want to look at how the stomach acid is doing. And that may need to be addressed and supplemented with hydrochloric acid. But just remember that there's a feedback loop in the body. So as the liver gets congested, it produces less bile, which is alkaline. And the stomach acid is super acidic. And so they neutralize each other as they meet at the beginning of the small intestines and go through the rest of the way. If there isn't bile coming out, then the acidity of the stomach acid could burn. It's going to burn all the way down. So a lot of times if there's not bile, but there is stomach acid, you might actually have something more like diarrhea because the body's trying to protect you from getting burned by the acid. But the body's smart. And so as the bile from the liver drops in quantity, the body will kind of adjust its thermostat of making the acid because it knows that they won't be able to balance out. There's not enough bile to balance out. And so the body down regulates its production of stomach acid, which is not fun because then we're just not digesting, we're not getting minerals and nutrients from our food. So obviously we want to improve both of these situations. But it would be good to check, if you are really constipated, to try supplementing with hydrochloric acid and see if it gets better at all, as long as you are also addressing bile flow and working towards better bile flow in the long run. So walking a long ways regularly helps moving the bowels. This is, kind of basic. And then another one that I just wanted to mention is waking up at the same time on your circadian rhythm and pooping at the same time and at the right time. So, according to the Chinese medicine organ clock, large intestine time is actually 5 to 7 a.m. And so you might notice that if you catch that window, like if you're up and it's 6:30 and your body's awake, you might have a bowel movement. But if you sleep in to 8:30, you might find that you actually can't, you're not having that bowel movement. So that's something to just keep in mind. 5 to 7 is the large intestine time. So that's kind of the ideal time to have a really great excavation of the bowels. Evacuation. Evacuation is the word. Thanks for hanging in there with me. I hope that this was a good crash course for you. You got some good information about how to start making sure that this all important, bottom of the funnel of the drainage pathway for the whole body for its detoxification and waste removal, that the colon must be addressed. And this is in relation to, accomplishing a good liver flush, but also just in general. And even if you are working towards getting ready for a liver flushing, you can start working on the colon right now. And if you do want to take advantage of my low cost, super over delivered Enema Essentials online course with tutorials and all of that, comment course below. And as always, you can subscribe to my channel, follow me on the channels to get more awesome information like this. And I hope you all have a great day. This is Sienna Songbird signing out. May all beings be liberated, and all colons, may they be free-flowing, clean, happy, smiling in the colons. May they be free and happy. Many blessings.